Good morning and welcome to Motivational Monday. I am so excited about the word this morning, and I am truly glad to see you joining us. So thank you for joining us every Monday. And some of you tell me, you know what? I'm missing on Monday, but I go back and read it during the week, hear it, listen to it during the week. So let me thank you for joining us and spending this time with us. We have a great word for today. Our theme for this week is believing. And our key verse says, and it is Mark chapter 9, verse 23. Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." And so before we talk about and get to our key verse, I want to read verses 18 through 22 leading up to our key verse. And so verse 18, that's Mark chapter 9, verse 18. "Whenever it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. I asked your disciples to drive out the spirit, but they could not." 19 says, "You unbelieving generation." Jesus replied, "How long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So first of all, before we talk about verse 23, which talks about all things are possible to him who believes, let's talk about the part where he talks about that unbelieving generation. They took the boy to the disciples to bring out this evil spirit in him, and the disciples could not bring it out. And God says to them, and he's saying to some of you, you unbelieving generation. Because when you talk about all things are possible to him who believes, you got to have the spirit of believing. You got to believe that God can and God will. I talked to a lady and she was dealing with some illness in her body, some pain in her body. And I told her, I said, pray to God for healing. I said, pray that God would deliver and heal you from that pain in your body. And she says to me, "I've prayed about this pain, but I just don't believe that God can heal me." And so I want to know if you are in that unbelieving generation. Do you just pray because God tells us to pray, but you don't really believe when you pray about it that God can, will heal and deliver you from whatever you are praying to him about? So we can't pray and not believe that God can do it. And you know what? Let me tell you this. For me, I don't need another example from God. I don't need God to show me nothing else. Because when I look back in my life, I know that God can and I know that he will, because he's already done it before, and I know that he can and will do it again. So I need to know this morning that if you are a part of that unbelieving generation, I need for you to listen to the rest of this lesson. So it says, "You unbelieving generation," Jesus replied, "how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." And so now, because the disciples couldn't heal him, and because you have that unbelief, I'm talking to you and you, because you have that unbelief, because you don't believe that Jesus can and will do it. And so they brought him, and when the spirit saw Jesus, it immediately threw the boy into a convulsion. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. Jesus asked the boy's father, "How long has he been like this?" "From childhood," he answered. "It has often thrown him into a fire or water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." "If you can," Jesus said, "everything is possible for the one who believes." So he's telling the father of this young man has an evil spirit in him, and it brings out the worst in him. And that's some of us. Sometimes our pain is so bad, it brings out the worst in us. But God is telling us this morning, he says, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. He's telling you that you got to believe in your asking. In your asking, there can be no doubt. In your asking, there can be no I'm not sure. In your asking, there cannot be any I don't know. You got to believe when you ask. And so he asks the Father, he tells the Father, if you can, Jesus said, everything is possible for the one who believes. And so we got to believe this morning. When you are asking God for healing, when you are asking God for deliverance, when you are asking God for to fix up your broken heart, when you're asking God for whatever it is that you need, you got to ask him in belief. You can't ask him. You see, asking him for help and doubting him at the same time really does not go together. It can't even be in the same mind frame. It can't even be in the same sentence. And so you got to believe this morning that God can and that God will. And then verse 24 says, immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. And so I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief. And so sometimes we have to ask God to help us to overcome our unbelief, because we have all been there. You know, I don't care how much Jesus you think you have. I don't care how much Bible you know. I don't care how many scriptures you can quote. Every now and then we get in a place of doubt and unsure. And a lot of times we say, okay, I'm going to take this to the altar. I'm waiting on Sunday morning so I can get to the altar, and I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to take it and I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to feel better. I'm going to believe. But we take it there, but we don't leave it. We take it and we pick it right back up, because you know what? That's that doubt. That's that unbelief, that you don't believe that when you give it to God, that he can and will work it out. So this morning, I want to encourage you that all things are possible to him who believes. And so I just need for you to believe. I need you to step out this morning. I need you to step out on belief this morning and believe that whatever your situation is, that God can fix that thing, that God can sure enough fix that thing. And I want you to look back and remind yourself that, you know what? God has done this before. And when I look back over my life and know that God has brought me through it before, he'll bring me through again, only if I believe. So you got to believe that thing. Even move out of the pain situation. Even when you are asking God for a miracle, when you are asking God for direction, when you are asking God to help you do a thing, guess what? You got to believe that it can happen. You know, when I first started, when Fonda Thompson Ministries was birthed, I was afraid. I didn't know how this thing was gonna go. I didn't know what God was going to do through Fonda Thompson Ministries. But then I listened to my pastor talk about stepping out on faith and trusting God and believing that God can and will. And guess what? I know for a fact that God can and he will. And so this morning, I just need for you to get in that state of mind. I need for you to get in that believing a spirit, because when you believe, it says that all things are possible to him who believes. And so the key thing is that you got to believe. So you can God can give you a thing. He can give you a thing that's so big that you can't even imagine it. You don't know how you're going to do it. You don't know how you're going to pay for it. You don't know what people you're going to need to help you. But all things are possible to him who believes. And when you start, if God gave it to you and you start believing that thing, you ain't got to worry about how you going to pay for it. You ain't got to worry about who you going to need. You don't have to worry about any of that, because if God gave it to you, he says that if you just believe, if you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. So I just need for you this morning to start believing that God will do that thing, that God can do that thing, that God can do that thing. And so just believe in your spirit that God can and will do that thing, only to him who believes. So thank you this morning for joining us. I'm not singing this week, but thank you for joining us this morning. It is a delight to see you every Monday. Thank you for your comments on through Facebook, through text message, through email. You all are such an encouragement to me, and I really do appreciate it. My prayer for you this week is that God will continue to bless you, and whatever that thing is for you, I am praying for your belief, that you just walk out and believe that God can and will. And so thank you so much for joining us this week. Have a great week on purpose, and you know that I love you. Have a great week.